Let me introduce our guest speaker today, Larry Savage, who is a longtime Madison Forum member. Larry has run for Cobb County Commission Chairman before, and Larry is has a 40-year career in industry, 5 small businesses, 6 years deeply engaged in Cobb County government, long-time critic of the CID's ARC and urban planning policy, and student of policy, conservative sources and liberal sources as well. So Larry also, and I'll add to this, was the only non-attorney who argued before the Georgia Supreme Court that the funding for the stadium, being that it wasn't held with by referendum, was wrong according to the state constitution. And you can see Larry's argument on YouTube, and I'm not sure if it's on Madison Forum or is it on your website, Larry?
It will be on the website.
Will be on the website. Larry did a remarkable job, and he knows, from my perspective, he knows more about Cobb County government issues and intricacies than virtually any other person in Cobb or any other collective to people in Cobb. So with that, let me introduce a warm welcome for Larry Savage.
Thank you very much. Going to go back to the origins on the stadium thing, just as a little background. In 2014, I filed an ethics complaint against the Board of Commissioners, and it was based upon a requirement in the Cobb County Ethics Code that the elected officials are to follow the law in the conduct of their official duties. And it was my view that when they created the special districts around the stadium, it included a $3 a night hotel fee and the extra ad valorem tax on some properties but not others, that they had not followed the law, because there's no basis in law for either one of those things. The ethics complaint, like the Supreme Court case, turned out to be not successful. And like the Supreme Court case, when you get into it and try to follow it to ground, you will discover that there's no real logic behind the conduct of the ethics board at the time. They've made some changes since then, so I'll give the benefit of the doubt going forward. But because of that, what really triggered it was I had prior experience with the CIDs, the Cumberland Community Improvement District, Town Center Area Community Improvement District. And I had a pretty good familiarity with the laws that affect them and under which they're created and exist. And I already knew what basically they could and could not do. And when the county came forward with these special districts, they were saying that they are going to follow the map of the CID. Now, no, wait a minute, you can't really do that, because the CIDs live and die. I mean, they exist under specific section of code and specific sections of even the Constitution. There's like pages in the Constitution on CIDs. That's how detailed it is. And trying to make this part of the CIDs, they even had the CID board vote to approve it, and they have no such power. It was totally inappropriate to even mention the CIDs in that conversation. So I had some background on it, and I felt then it was illegal. I still feel it was illegal then. And since then, it has come forward, and we've had the creation of the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority, which is a replacement for an earlier South Cobb Redevelopment Authority that just kind of went defunct because it didn't do anything. And in the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority, they have followed the same template as they did in stadium financing to issue bonds. They've issued $10 million in bonds and handed the $10 million over to the authority to spend to cheer people up in South Cobb is the best way I know to describe it. There's not really a lot of strings attached. But they use the same template in terms of justifying it, where the county will pay money to the authority and the authority issues the bonds, and therefore, since the county's not issuing the bonds, it's not a debt as prohibited by the Constitution. And that's just a little bit of shorthand of how it works. The county said, we're not paying interest on bonds, we're paying the authority. And that's not really a debt. And that's the kind of thing the court has proved over the years. So I complained about that too. And it's not because I just want to complain. I have a penchant for wanting people to follow the law. You know, my view is if the county government won't follow the law, why should anybody? And I'm afraid that's kind of the path that we're on right now. But anyway, in the stadium, we issued $368 million in bond debt. We created these special districts to collect money from hotels and motels. And it's because of their proximity to the stadium, we were told. But if you look at the map reaches way up north and reaches way down south and catches hotels in both areas. But there can be hotels that are literally across the street from the stadium that aren't involved. They don't pay the $3 a night fee because they weren't included in the special district, because they're in the city of Smyrna and city of Marietta. So we've got this anomaly here where we're saying we're going to charge one hotel $3 a night or charge their customers $3 a night, and then we have others that are much closer even and won't be paying the same thing. So it's very unfair to the people who are involved. But that went forward, as did the property tax on the commercial properties. And they have differentiated. They only charge that property tax on commercial properties. They are not charging it on homes, owner-occupied homes, but they are charging it on apartments because the apartment owners agreed. Well, there's no provision in law to differentiate like that in taxation. In fact, there's a requirement in Georgia law for uniformity of taxation. And only where it's constitutionally permitted can distinctions be made in how property is taxed. Otherwise, any property in Cobb County can tax their property different from Lowndes County, but everybody in Cobb County is supposed to be taxed the same way, unless there's a specific constitutionally allowed reason not to. And we're completely off the map on these things currently. So we've done the South Cobb redevelopment thing, we've done the same thing, and now we've got a brand new one you may have seen in the newspaper over the last 3 weeks. They have created a new special district, and it's odd because it's 3 different chunks around the county. One of them's up in the northwest corner, one's down south, and one is somewhere up in the northeast corner. And there's no criteria about how these areas were designated. It's unclear on the maps I've seen. I've yet to see a map that's got any street details so you can even tell who's involved and who isn't. But they are called a special district now for a new hotel tax. And this new hotel tax is $3 a night, same as the hotels down by the stadium. And this money is now dedicated to fund the operation of the Tourism and Travel Bureau. They have a name, Convention and Visitors Bureau, they call that in Atlanta, but just say Tourism and Travel. It's a county department. And their mission, of course, is to promote tourism in Cobb County. And they're going to get the money out of this, so it'll be $4 or $5 million a year. And once again, alarms go off because I say, wait a minute, this is the same thing we've done around the stadium that I said was illegal. It's the same thing we've done in South Cobb that I said was illegal. And sure enough, I'm pretty sure it's illegal here too. But even worse, the hotel owners began to pay attention. And an organization, if you live in Cobb County, you probably got one of these flyers in the mail last week about what the Cobb County Republican commissioners are doing. That was actually put out by the national organization of the Asian American Hotel Owners Association. And Asian American includes Indian and South Asian people, which is a preponderance of that. About 50 or 60 of these hotel owners showed up at the commission meeting the other night because they're protesting. If you own a hotel and you're into the lower end of the price range, adding a fixed fee is a high percentage of your total selling price of your room rental. And these guys calculated that the low-end hotels, that the budget hotels that a lot of people rely on, and some people rely on those budget hotels for a place to live, the total tax bill, 4% sales tax statewide, the SPLOST tax for the county, SPLOST tax for the school district, the $5 a night fee that was just added by the legislature last year, And then a $3 night fee, they're up to, I think they said 48% of what they will charge a customer is taxes. It makes Cobb County the highest tax rate in the state, if not the country, for a budget hotel. And it falls hardest on the people at the lower end of the economic scale who are most likely to frequent those places. So they're unhappy, and the commission did decline to vote on it the other night. They decided they're going to give it 30 more days for evaluation. But I don't think, they can't evaluate it long enough to make it legal, in my opinion. The state requires the uniformity of taxation, as I said, and there's also provision in the Constitution that taxation and tax policy is the exclusive domain of the General Assembly. So the county cannot make up a new tax, which is what they've done here. There is no provision under the law currently for this $3 a night hotel fee to promote travel and tourism. And just as a side note here, I'll tell you that the current hotel tax, before any of this got started, was set by the state at a maximum of 8%. Cobb County's been collecting that 8% hotel motel tax for years. That money used to go to fund travel and tourism promotion. And a few years ago, they redirected that money to pay the debt service on the convention center at the Galleria and on the Performing Arts Center, arguing that those things are tourism attractions and it's appropriate to spend that tourism money on those things, but that took the money away from travel and tourism as an agency. So now they want to come back and add the $3 a night as a fee to fund the travel and tourism as an agency. Now, there's no real reason why travel and tourism has to have its own money stream. They're just a department. They could be in the general fund budget like everybody else. But adding this on, I won't try to explain this. I think that they have recognized that the $3 a night fee around the stadium is problematic under the law, and they're trying to spread it countywide to close the loop on the requirement for uniformity of taxation. And by doing that, they gin up this extra money and say, what can we do with the extra money? Well, let's use it on travel and tourism. So I think in some respects, it's a recognition of earlier sins. And, you know, the trouble's always in the cover-up, you know. And I suspect that what we are seeing is somebody who is trying to cover a past error with a new error, and it's just making a much bigger error. But we're going to have to watch and see how this plays out. But I'm going to read you a couple of sections here just to make you understand that this really, you know, this is really what the law requires. It says the power granted to counties in subparagraphs shall not be construed to extend to the following matters or any other matters which the General Assembly has preempted or may hereinafter preempt. But such matters shall be subject to general law or the subject of acts of the General Assembly. In other words, the county cannot do the things listed from here down. And one of those things, action adopting any form of taxation beyond that authorized by law. So only the state can designate a new tax. And then the county has the liberty to implement it if they want to. The title special districts it's going to be a little bit difficult to comprehend, but what the county has said is it's whatever we say it is. And they have randomly selected these parts of the county for taxation as special districts. Now, the Constitution does allow the county to create a special district for whatever reasons, if there's no special district already created by the legislature. In the case of hotel motel taxes, we already have a special district in Cobb for hotel motel taxes. And that special district, the way it's described, is repeated throughout the Georgia Code. There's numerous places where there's special districts created. And in every case, it reads like this. Pursuant to the authority granted by Title IX of the Constitution, there are created within this state 159 special districts. One such special district shall exist within the geographical boundaries of each county. And how many counties do we have?
159.
Not coincidence. And the territory of each such district shall include all the territory within the county. And in the case of the hotel motel taxes, which is where this particular came from, except territory located within the boundaries of any municipality which imposes an excise tax on charges for public rooms. Meaning that it's the whole county except for the cities, if the cities have their own hotel motel tax. So you can't have two hotel motel taxes on the same people. And throughout the Georgia Code, that same terminology, there's one for, geez, I don't know, might confuse myself here in a minute, but there's one for Greta. There's places where Greta applies and doesn't apply in the same county. And it's always the entire county minus something. Cobb County has said it's a spot on the map if we say it's a spot on the map, and I think they're 100% wrong about that. And I'm very disturbed. In fact, I sent an email in just a few days ago and said, can you give me the criteria upon which you created these special districts? No answer. Can you give me a map that's legible? No answer. So I think that they're really in a box now. I'm disappointed that it's gotten this far. I don't know who's providing the legal advice on these things. I'm not a lawyer. English is my first language, and I can read and comprehend. We're used to stuff in, legalese language where you read stuff and your mind starts to buzz because you don't know what it says. It's not like that in the state constitution, and most of the time not like that in the law. You can read it and figure it out right away. And we get, when you get to the point that people just really will not listen, it's in my mind, it's a little bit disturbing. But well, I repeated something there, but as I said, the current maximum allowed by the state on hotels and motels is 8%. We already collect that, we already use it, we have for years. There's no authority available for stacking another $3 a night on there by the county. And one other thing I'll mention here, they are specifically, and Ron, I know we've had some discussion in other formats about the use of the term fee. They're calling it a fee, not a tax. Now that's all too clever. I looked it up in the legal dictionary. I always use online sources because I don't want to buy a legal dictionary. But the definition for a fee is a compensation paid for particular acts, services, or labor, generally those that are performed in the line of official duties or a particular profession. If you hire a lawyer, you pay them fees because they're giving you legal services. If you go to the renew the tag on your car, one of the lines there is a fee. And everybody that has a car and renews the tag pays that fee. The people who don't renew tags don't pay that fee. You can't assess a fee on everybody on the basis that they're getting some imaginary service, which is the case with this $3 a night thing. They're saying, well, the hotels are benefiting because we're promoting tourism. That'll be good for the hotels. Well, some of these hotel owners say, we don't get any out-of-town visitors. We get people that are coming to visit their family members and stay with us, or people that are down there in luck and live here for 3 weeks. And we get people that, carrying on illicit romances or whatever. But we're not going to benefit from this. Well, we say you will, so therefore we're going to charge you. That's not how a fee is supposed to work. But that's the kind of thing we're seeing, We're seeing wanting to hang on this tiny distinction of a fee versus a tax, and it just doesn't hold up when you look into it a little bit. But here's a big part. And I get too absorbed in talking about the impact on these guys in the hotel business. Why does this matter to you? The county has acknowledged no limits on their ability to do this. And as I said to them in the public comment period the other night, could you go out to somebody's house? I didn't want to say my house because I didn't want to give them any ideas. But I said, could you go out to somebody's house and draw a circle around it and call it a special district and raise their millage rate? Based on what I've heard, I don't see any reason why he couldn't. It's not prohibited. It's also not permitted. And that's an important distinction in the law. You know, Bill, you go to the legislature and talk to these people, I'm sure you're familiar with the term, when they talk about creating enabling legislation. Now, what's that mean? It means that the legislature is giving the power to do something. They are enabling the county or the city or whoever, or an agency of the state, they're enabling them to do something. That's because they can't do these things on a clean sheet of paper. They have to have permission. They've got to be authorized to do something new. And we're skipping all by that. We're skipping past those steps at this point in time. So if it can be done for hotel owners under an imaginary hotel tax, it can be done to anybody. And just one more example, you know, the South Cobb redevelopment thing, they bought this motel on Six Flags Drive. And it was very amusing because they were throwing these people out, not throwing them out, they were telling them they had to move just before Christmas. And that was kind of a messy thing in terms of public relations. But I'm thinking, if they can do this special district thing and apply a tax, why wouldn't they just call that motel a special district and say it's in need of additional services in the form of a police precinct, and put a couple of hundred cops down there to watch this motel and just run their millage rate up to pay for it all? Why couldn't they do that?
Because they don't have the cops to do it.
Well, they could hire a couple of hundred cops, you see, and just raise the millage rate up. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but it is not out of the question. If the things that we're talking about now can be done, you could do that too. And that's really the big problem, is there's no indication that there's any limits to this.
Aren't they limited by state legislative law that the millage rate has a ceiling? That they have to get approval by the state government in order to exceed that?
The school district is. I don't know of any limit
Good.
on the general fund of the county.
And combined with that, is there anywhere within our law that addresses the subject, other than the dictionary, addresses the subject of fees as different from taxes?
I haven't found anything, David. I've looked a little bit, not an exhaustive search. I haven't found anything that specifically makes the difference clear. But there are places where fees are specified, you know, that a fee can be charged for this, a fee can be charged for that. And then there are other places where taxes are levied. And as far as anything in the code that specifically draws that distinction, I haven't found it. But in common English language, which is a fallback position in many cases, it's pretty clear what the difference is. You know, a tax is something that can be levied. There's no requirement in taxation, and this is made clear. There's no requirement in taxation that everybody benefit the same from the government's use of the tax money. And that has to be like that. It wouldn't be possible to say that everybody's going to be equally benefited by the taxes that they pay. But in the case of a fee, it appears to me, everything I've seen so far says that you don't pay a fee unless you're getting something in exchange for it. Yes, sir.
Larry.
Well, hold it, before we get into Q&A, are you finished with your presentation?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Larry, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Enlightenment.